All right, Big Man, today's Wednesday. It's August 24th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. We are going to do a doc review. It's myself. Dante's back. Chief is here, of course. And how is everybody? How are we doing?
I'm pretty mad. I'm pretty mad because we're talking about a guy that I fucking hate. And we're doing a doc review on the WeWork thing. I watched it. This was the second time I watched it because I watched it when it came out. I've listened to podcasts about him. He's one of these people that I just fucking hate. And Dante, all he said was, I think you're going to be surprised by my take. And I'm triggered by it. So I'm ready to go.
So it's on Hulu. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It's just called WeWork, I don't know, something else. But if you type in WeWork, you'll find
The making and breaking of a $47 billion unicorn.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I like Chief. I watched this during the pandemic when it came out. And I was watching it last night, and I was like, did I see this before? I couldn't tell if it was a new one. Mm-hmm. I knew the story, obviously.
Well, there's been so many redos. Like Woodstock 99, there's been a...
I guess there has been a couple, too.
Firefest did multiple.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been two WeWork ones?
I think so. I think I saw
this
that.
is the better one because this is like actual footage from him recording himself.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that a lot of the docs we've reviewed are people documenting their own like dumpster fire?
Well, he wasn't in this.
I know, but it's still like he was agreeing to like this whole thing. Like,
it's not surprising because he's a self-aggrandizing fuck.
His fucking head is so far up his ass.
Right, but don't you see the pattern of like all these?
Yeah, psychopath liars, dude. That's the pattern.
Like,
who want to be a big shot?
Like, can you imagine like when like we started like Barstool Chicago, like hiring Harry and being like, hey, we need you to film everything that we're doing because this is gonna be huge.
Every other week on Friday. Chicago stool scenes.
So no, not now. I'm saying the infancy, like the Neil and Dan part-time and like you guys full-time jobs, like those days.
Yeah, like a 10-part series on Barstool Sports.
All right, you're not helping me prove my point here. You know what I'm getting at though. I just think like that's like psychotic to me.
I would agree.
Psychotic.
But at the same time, wasn't this genius? Didn't Kanye do this?
People.
I didn't watch that one.
I didn't watch that one either.
Channel Zero people recognized that Kanye was going to be fucking huge, and they asked him to follow him around.
Oh, really?
And he let them for a little while, and then he was like,
no.
I'm like, I'm too big for you. But that was different. That wasn't like Kanye, like, yo, I'm hiring you. Follow me around and video everything. Mm-hmm. Like this fucking Andrew guy, dude. Damn it, showing the 50 outtakes of him trying to like recite something.
That was his most relatable moment.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're way better than that.
You're not wrong, dude.
I've
gotten better at that, but Harry, Danny, whoever can tell you, like, if we're doing whatever ad read, Chevy Drive Chicago, I'll have to do a take or two.
Well, I have an ad read. We'll get to that
Let's
before we get to more.
Great
the
segue.
ad read is Game Time.
I love Game Time.
Why do you love Game Time?
Because they have the best tickets at the lowest price. It's so easy to use that app. You can transfer it right to your wallet. You can leave it in the app if you want to. They have every concert that you could ever dream of, every game you could ever dream of. You can get into Wrigley Field for like $5 these days. It's fucking great. A little neighborhood baseball team. And it's a great time. And I was going to go to Notre Dame, Ohio State with my guy Dante, but unfortunately I can't because we're doing a stream in Hoboken for that game for Notre Dame, Ohio State. So,
nice.
So so I'm out on that, and but that same day the Lumineers are there, so it would be a great day. You know, it's a big event day, September 3rd, Labor Day weekend. Get on there, make sure your Labor Day weekend's great.
Oh, dude, you have to see. That's a hometown show for them. You have to see that.
I'm gonna be in Hoboken, September 3rd.
Wait, you said Lumineers are there though, right?
No, Lumineers in Wrigley.
Oh, what?
September 3rd.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm out of the loop.
And Notre Dame, the Ohio State game, I was trying to feel like, could I watch the game, fly back, blah blah blah.
I was really looking forward to playing middleman that game because you're the biggest Notre Dame fan I know, and bringing you to the OSU student section.
I would.
Caleb got a
fucking
student
camo.
Caleb got a student tickets. I was really looking forward to being in the middle.
You had
there.
a nice weekend, dude. His bars over there are awesome.
I've heard great things.
Yeah. But yeah, go check out a concert. Go check out a game. A lot of NFL actions right around the corner. Download the Game Time app. Go to the account tab. Create a login. And redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed.
You know what I love about Game Time? One last thing. Mm-hmm. There's none of this bullshit hidden fees. Like the price you see is the price you're paying at the end.
Because that is infuriating in other places.
Infuriating.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially when you're buying more than one ticket.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like about it, is it's like, this is what the price is. Take it or leave it.
It's nice.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
So this doc, I'm an ADD bitch. Like I'm like always like stop, go.
Mm-hmm.
I was locked in.
Yep.
Really?
This was fascinating to me.
Definitely.
What was the most...
So
what hooked you then?
Yeah, what was the thing that really...
it's you hate watch. You know what I mean? Like I don't like that money ticker and like the culture. And I was gonna say, so you hate this guy more than anything, right?
I hate him. This is one of those. And look, I think he's a very smart guy who just did nothing but sell bullshit. And when he would be interviewed and they would ask him like, so like you're this real estate company, he'd be like, no, we're not a real estate company. Because if you're a real estate company, you have to have, you have to have your tangible assets. You have to have like a very kind of strict, unless you're a fucking big bank and you can just get leverage up your ass. But he was like, no, like we're not that. We're a tech company. There's nothing about him that's a tech company. But he knew that tech companies, people are willing to lose money for a long time. If people want to be in these entrepreneurial tech spaces, we saw the same thing with the Elizabeth Holmes thing.
So I was going to ask you, I thought you hated her.
I hate her a lot.
Who's worse, her or him?
Neither.
I think it's like two sides of the same coin.
They were like the same person.
Very similar. And it's one of those things where it's like, I hate this in general. When they're just bullshit merchants, and you can pick them out by when they say things like momentum, and they say things like culture, and they use all these fucking buzzwords, and then when you ask to see their books, they're like, oh well, we're in this high growth thing, and we're gonna we project to be profitable X amount of years in the future. It's like, no, you're just actually bullshit. There's very few of these companies historically that can go on losing money for years and years and years, but it's because they're creating critical mass. Amazon did it, obviously. Uber is doing it. I don't know. I don't think Uber's ever turned a profit still to this day.
Doesn't make sense.
Twitter hasn't been able to turn a profit, but they have they're so ubiquitous and so big in terms of their user base that you can.
Great word.
Thank you. That you can justify their value and have a path theoretically towards profitability because their user base is so big. But that was just never the case. Like they showed that one thing, that was my tipping point where I got so mad. And like the arrogance to think that you're going to be able to, you can sell bullshit privately when no one really has access to your numbers. The fact that you were like, now we're going to go public and we're going to sell community.
But here's the thing. He's not the worst person in the doc.
Who is?
The wife. By far, dude. You thought that Rebecca lady?
She's awful.
Oh my God.
But they're the same person.
She tried to
too.
take over a school system.
She invented a new, we learn, we grow.
When she was doing that podcast, the words she uses, I can't believe I live on the same planet as
Buddy,
that person. I truly don't.
The quote was, our goal with WeWork and We Grow, which is We Grow is the name for the school, was to elevate human consciousness. How the fuck are you qualified through your bullshit school to elevate human consciousness? You want to know another reason why I think the husband is the worst? The guy, Adam Neumann, the CEO. I don't think they talked about this in the doc. If they did, they glossed over it. I missed it. Do you know he trademarked the word we?
Oh, yeah, they talked
and he
about
had
it.
the company pay him $6 million.
$5.9 million.
He rented it to them.
And it's just did they say that in the doc?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I must have missed that too. But it's he is and that's a guy who knows he built a sinking ship on bullshit. So he's trying to get all his money out. And then
he pulled $700 million the day we were supposed to go public.
Right.
He was just
then they paid
ultimate-
him not to work, basically, to resign, and he got that. Like they paid him basically, they paid him a premium on his shares to get him to go away, and it was like, but the shares are bullshit. Like the shares are worth negative dollars because you're not making any money, and you have all these contracts out that leverage you up to all these other real estate companies. Because he did end up buying some of their buildings, which is another like smart move. Like I'm gonna now I'm gonna raise the rates, and I'm your landlord, and you just pay me, fucking company.
So who do you think was
But
worse?
dude, he used the money he raised to buy those properties. He paid himself, then bought those properties privately, and then leased them to the company. So he was basically taking your money,
yes,
and then buying assets and then charging you
rent.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's not in jail.
The other thing, I mean,
who do you think was worse, Dante?
So here's the thing. This is what's going to shock you.
I'm ready to fight.
I'm at the point now when I'm seeing like the Elizabeth Holmes doc and this doc where I just have to tip my cap, man. Like the phrase, there's a sucker born every minute.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the circus guy, Barnum.
Yeah. So like I'm not in that tech space, but I'm in the space where like I'm trying to raise money, like private money a lot for, the hospitality industry. You can't really get
I've been through
loans.
that process too. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Dude, it's fucking hard, man. Yep. And seeing people like this who just people are throwing money at. I mean, this guy, we'll get to it, but this guy just raised another $250 million.
Well, that's why it's relevant too, everyone.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
yeah,
and if you're just watching, the big thing was last week they announced he just raised $350 million from another VC firm. Mm-hmm. So I'm in awe, honestly. Like I'm just like, wow, this guy is as psychopathic as he is. Like, God, I wish I had 1/10 of whatever it is that makes people want to give him money, because my life would be so much easier. It's by far the hardest part of my business.
But the tipping point for this whole thing with Adam Neumann, because people were starting to get suspicious, like what's going on? So like I think this was at the end of 2017. I might have the timeline a little bit off, but he was going through this process, and people were like, hey, like, when are we going to be fucking profitable? And like he didn't really have an answer, and people were starting to catch up to him. And then the Masa-san, who is the founder, chairman of SoftBank, which is a giant, basically private equity firm with $100 billion in their coffers, came in. Japan, sorry. Came in and gave him $4 billion at that like $12 billion valuation, and told him to go crazy. Now there's that expression, like, you're not dreaming big enough. So he's like, we Mars. And like they were going to put a fucking WeWork on Mars. Like literally, that's like documented that was one of the things that they were kicking around. But that there's that expression where shit rolls downhill. Well, dumb money apparently also rolls downhill, because Masa had like he is known as like the tech kingmaker. Okay, so he was an early investor in Uber, like very early. He gave Alibaba, which is like the Chinese Amazon. We've done a thing about Jack Ma before. Gave him $20 million very early. Well, so he had this SoftBank fund, this $100 billion fund. And when you're raising money at that level, you don't go to JP Morgan Chase and these other ones. You go to sovereign wealth funds, which have like crazy money. And the biggest one that's throwing money around, they talked about this in the doc, is Saudi Arabia. So we've seen them do things with like the Live Tour. We're seeing them buy Newcastle United. We've talked about, Neom, the vertical city. We've talked about them a lot lately, all these different endeavors that they're doing to get away from and diversify from just oil. Well, one of their big ventures was SoftBank, and they just gave this guy a shit ton of money. I think they gave him like $45 billion of that $100 billion. And so he's just like, well, fuck, I got oil money now. I had a 12-minute meeting with Adam Neumann. Yeah, WeWork looks fucking great. Go big or go home. Here's $4 billion. And he's just like, okay, well, the first thing I'm going to do is buy a $60 million private jet. We fly. Okay. And this is what I mean, where it's just like, if you have stupid money, like, you're going to spend it poorly.
However, can I defend WeWork for 1 second here?
Good luck.
Those fucking weekend camp parties look sick.
But that was the only thing he did well.
I know, but like, hey.
How about at the end when they're like, they made everybody wear tracking devices, wristbands.
Yeah.
So
then it went to looking not fun at all.
Yeah, like you have to go see these speeches, and then they would show like clips of the speeches, and it's like how he started at the open with all these fucking buzzwords, hyper growth, community aspect, wellness, like diversification of idea. Like it's just like corporate lingo bullshit, feel good words that aren't backed up by anything, to the point that they were showing their.
But you're completely disregarding the secret sauce here.
What is it? What is it? Because
that was a joke.
The secret sauce is the bullshit. So they were saying that in the doc.
Yeah.
So there's this guy in Chicago. I won't name him, but he is
name his ass.
He is on all the shit like this day one. And I remember when WeWork first opened their first Chicago location. It was on Kinsey, right across from where STK is.
Yep,
right there, right on Kinsey and State. And he left a really prominent company, started his own, and he started two companies actually. And he told me to come meet him. He had an idea he wanted to pitch me, and he gave me this address. And I was like, "Oh, is this your office?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's my workspace." Went and met him, and I was like, what is this? There was all these like random people there. It was like a front desk check-in, all this. And he was like, "Oh, this is like the future of workspaces. It's called WeWork." And I was like, "It's actually a pretty like good idea." And he was like, "Yeah, it's like a monthly thing. Like you have access to like these conference rooms, blah 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 blah." But it wasn't like watching Neumann talk about like what you just said, like wellness and all that. It was a fucking office space, and it was like they
fucking
compared
bean
it.
Bags in the chairs.
They compared it to Regis in this, and like Regis was super like fucking uppity and just sterile.
Yeah,
this was more like millennial,
definitely
geared. But like my big thing when he was like telling me like how this was gonna like take over the world and everything, and even when the IPO was launching and all that, is my big question was like, what is the barrier to entry for competition of this?
Nothing.
What is stopping any fucking other person in the world with money from signing a commercial real estate lease and doing exactly what they do and cutting into your market share?
And then they showed this one like kind of interview, like live interview conference thing. And he would just say all these things like, well, see, all the energy in the room is up here and it's empty. And we got some people facing the wrong room. And he's like, oh, like you're some fucking Zen. What's that? The feng shui genius about how to set up office chairs. You throw fucking bean bags in the corner, dude, and put beer on tap. Shut the fuck up. Like that's the thing that was driving me crazy because and I've said this saying on podcasts before where they always say like that there's that too big to fail, it's too big to fail. Sometimes things are so big that they inevitably fail, and that's a WeWork thing, and that's the thing that was driving me crazy because I do think it's actually a very good idea that you take places that nobody else can lease, and it's a very common practice in commercial real estate that if you have a building that needs fixing up, you pay the upfront costs of turning it into a good space, a usable space, in exchange for a longer than normal lease. And like that's very standard in that industry.
TI.
So what?
TI.
Yeah.
Tenant improvement.
Exactly. Tenant improvement. So you do that, and then it's like, we're going to make this a more functional space, and we're going to attract young people. And instead of going after these, trying to lease it out like the way Regis would do as a shared space, we're going to get all these entrepreneurs. You could even probably do it as like an incubator in a way too. We're your office space, but we're also going to take 0.5% of your company. And then you get the upside of the growth. And then you can, like, if you did that on a smaller scale, instead of doing fucking we fly and we grow and we everything, if you just did that, that's a good business.
Which is funny because the JB Pritzker actually has one of those in the Merchandise Mart. I cannot think of the name of it right now, but there are some very successful companies that have
come out of there.
That are still like based out of there. And this is like, this started like the same time as the WeWork thing, but that was their business model. You know who else is like really good at that and is turning the city of Detroit around is Dan Gilbert.
I've heard that about him.
He's all that like rundown real estate in downtown Detroit. him and Illich like each own half the city. But yeah, Gilbert basically invested all this money, built out these great spaces, and turned them all into incubators. And young people are moving there and starting businesses.
Yeah,
and shit.
and I do think that is a thing with our generation where people don't want it. Like, no one wants to really work for fucking IBM anymore. You know, they want to be like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be the next fucking bullshit Adam Neumann. And
When does that swing back?
Please soon.
You gotta think though, dude.
That is like a culture. I think, you know, I think we went through a thing in the 90s and the 2000s, and maybe some of it was out of necessity for how our economy was turning, but where people like thumb their nose at blue collar jobs too, where it's like, no, you have to go to college and you have to pay $400,000 and be in debt for the rest of your life so you can get out and make 45. Where it's like, you can go it's a hard job, but you could. I had a buddy who was at 19 as a mason, you know, bricklayer, was making $85,000, and we're like, what? Like, you're the fucking richest person in the world. and I do think that and maybe that's not everywhere, but I do think that was a thing in suburbia, especially where I grew up, is that people like look down on those types of jobs and manufacturing labor jobs in general, and it's like, because that everybody has to be a millionaire or you're a fucking loser. It's just, I just think we have to change the whole way we look at the economy.
My boy Mike Rowe talks about that all the time.
Talks about what exactly?
About physical labor jobs and skilled labor jobs going extinct, and how
I think it's a real problem.
See, where I grew up, you're a moron if you don't take those jobs.
Well, that's good to hear.
It's crazy.
But there's
great.
also less of those jobs.
But that's the thing. The prices that like a plumber can charge nowadays. I mean, you should see our invoices.
From yeah.
I mean, and we're one of how many clients that they have. I mean, they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, you can, and that's
really well.
I think that's another thing where it's like, people don't recognize or appreciate that if you're competent, like truly competent at something, you can be a millionaire doing anything. Like, you can start off at 18 being a plumber. I know of this kid, from North Shore, started out in landscaping. Now he's got a multi-million-dollar business they just do landscaping, and he's like 24 years old. He's a fucking millionaire. He started off mowing lawns in high school and grew it into this business. Never went to school, didn't need to, and like that is. Like, the people need to sell competence instead of selling bullshit. And that's the thing that pisses me off about Neumann, is that he sold bullshit and he was totally incompetent. And he just wanted to be a fucking big shot millionaire. And that's why he had all these other failed things. They talked about knee pads for babies, fucking
that was great.
High heels that were collapsible. Which sounds like a decent idea on its surface, but it's like, who the fuck wants to wear, like, if you're wearing high heels, you're not wearing them for the practicality of them. So you don't need the collapsible. But like, that's like, he was always just trying to come up with something. And then he came up with this idea, which I have a suspicion that it was more so Miguel
the partner.
Yeah,
yes,
who was like
100%.
the original idea guy.
Yeah.
But Adam has like this ability to hypnotize people and get them sucked in and take all their money.
Which, speaking of which, brings us to last week. How the fuck did he do it again? Honestly, it's even more impressive that he did it this time than turning WeWork into a $47 billion valuated.
There's got to be more under the surface of that, right?
I don't know.
I have a theory, but I want to hear your guys. What do you think this venture is?
I think it's something within real estate.
The article said it was a pre-revenue. Duh. Fucking duh. Okay. No shit, you're pre-revenue. Real estate startup. And that's the thing. If he's going back and being like, the idea we originally had was pretty fucking good. Why don't we just try that again? I think that they could be on to something, because like the real estate market, commercial real estate market, there's properties out there to be had at a discount.
This is my theory, and I might be wrong, but this is what I think. I think he blamed everything on COVID and said, we had a gold mine. This would have worked. had COVID not changed the landscape and everybody works from home now. So what we're going to do is I see him not building, but converting, again, industrial or, vacant office space to living, working environments. I think he's going to target, Gen Z or whatever these kids are coming out of school, who live in these micro units now, which are becoming super popular. These like less than 900 square
Which
foot
is what
studios.
He was doing with We Live.
With big working spaces, because nobody goes to the office anymore. Everybody works remote. And he's going to sell it as like a habitat work space.
Which they did before. So the pushback I would have on that is that COVID had nothing to do with this.
Oh, so, I agree.
So, but like his valuation, it was when they were doing like the due diligence on it for the IPO, which was, I think, August of 2019. So like a full 6 months, like this fell apart a full 6 months before everyone knew what COVID was. But like that whole We Live thing, I think that is like not a bad idea either with those micro spaces. And you could say like, hey, fucking everything's super expensive. Rather than have, 4 roommates coming out of college, we're going to kind of give you, because people are fucking dumber now than ever and more irresponsible than ever, we're going to give you a built-in community in a new city. You're going to have a micro space, and instead of having 4 fucking idiot roommates and paying $800 a month, you're going to have your own space, but you're going to have like an extended adolescence dorm room environment.
Exactly.
And that's
huge ass entertainment centers,
yes.
Big kitchens,
put a gym
all
in
shared.
there. Yeah.
Yes, gyms, spas, all that shit.
Right.
The best guy in the doc was the NYU professor.
Oh,
that guy was great. He's like, you're fucking selling real estate, dude.
Yeah,
he
tech.
was great.
I love how Chief pointed that out, though, is how
it's a branding thing for investors. Because when you say I'm in manufacturing, okay, they really look down to like the 10th of a cent. If you say I'm in real estate, they really get into what are your assets. You say you're in tech, you can sell a dream, and they'll buy it clearly. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, what is your tech? He never had. It was a special sauce. It was fucking sauce. It was fucking bullshit.
Can I talk about Rebecca for a second?
Yes, you hate her,
dude. Come on, you didn't get that same thing?
Oh yeah, she's awful.
I know chicks like her.
I don't. That's.
How do you know a chick like her?
Oh, just
you do,
girls that like it would be like Silvana starting like her own thing and being like, oh, this is what we're gonna do now. Like I know women that have done that.
So, but this would be like Silvana coming in and telling Dave what to do about content inside of Barstool. Yeah, like she was like, and I'm actually the founder.
I mean, so the guy that owns the Red Sox, John Henry, his wife is like notorious for doing this. I can't think of her name.
The Bills and Sabres owners too.
Paluga.
So you're just saying it'd be like someone's wife or someone's girlfriend coming in and just calling the shots?
Or just being like, this is what, like, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
What was your biggest problem with her?
So I read her Wikipedia after, and on her Wikipedia there was just 2 quick anecdotes. One was, according to Vanity Fair, at WeWork, she was known to fire people, and she fired this mechanic for WeWork's Gulfstream jet within minutes of meeting them because she didn't like their energy.
Like that's like what?
And then she has, there's a belief section, and it says Neumann has endorsed pseudoscience such as the belief that meat has emotional memory, and she believes that if you have a flexible spine, you can live forever.
Yeah, fucking you set the curriculum for my children. Fucking we grow. Shut the fuck up. That she was the one that gave the quote that was, we're gonna elevate human consciousness. Like what? Like what? Like how arrogant do you have to be to let those words slide across your lips and think that you have the ability? A failed actress has the ability to elevate human consciousness through a fucking pre-K program that you're inventing.
But dude, there are people that those words resonate with, and they're like, who do I make the check out to? That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
She's not the crazy part. The people that give their money are the fucking
Makes
crazy
sense. I mean,
ones.
they got me with the summer camp party. Like if you're into big words and fucking energy, like,
Yeah, I think I would have quit during the summer. And like the whole thing where they show like at random points throughout the day, they would just chant, "We work, we work."
Cult, man, cult.
Dude.
You're not going to become a CWO not chanting "We work." I mean, come on. Or you're not going to go to the Eyes Wide Shut party. So
I mean,
just got to get in line. Now, question for you, both of you guys: how do you raise money? You just call rich people, and you're like, "Hey, can I?"
Well,
don't ask me. It is fucking not fun.
Yeah.
Not
well,
easy.
it depends on what, on like how
and like
much.
Chief said, you got to show. Like unless it's like a drug dealer or whatever, which I don't like fuck with or like want money from. You're talking to people that are.
They're professional hole pokers.
But they they have like financial analysts who are like doing everything in the world to tell them don't invest your money with anybody but me. So they're looking for every reason to be like, yeah, this is a bad idea.
Exactly. And like that was another thing that drove me crazy was they have EBITDA, right?
So where the fuck are these people when
they didn't because that's the thing that they would say. They would show their numbers, right? And it would basically, it's kind of like what the Biden administration is doing with inflation and the recession, where it's like, well, we don't want to be in a recession. Oh, well, we're technically in a recession. Just change the definition. So they would go through and it would be like community adjusted EBITDA. You can't fucking community adjust EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings. I'm gonna mess it up now, but it's like after taxes, whatever, and amortization, like what your actual nut is after EBITDA, like basically showing like, are you profitable? Are you a healthy business? And they would just be like, well, we don't have a way to calculate the value that we're bringing in terms of community and spirit and entrepreneurship. And
Well, they could. It was one of those things where he could just flip on the profit if he wanted to.
Right,
yes,
right. So
like,
we want to stay, which is a thing.
Yeah.
Like
creative accounting and shit like that.
Not even creative accounting, but it is creative accounting. But it's like, where do we want to say our money is? So, or like, do we want to just say like, hey, we have all this money on the books, or are we putting it out in investments?
Yeah.
And so you can, and it's for the like you sometimes you want to keep your earnings artificially low, which helps you raise. It's like a complicated thing, but like that is a thing that is like a genuine thing people do in a startup company. But like that was just another bullshit line where it's like, yeah, we're keeping it artificially low. Like we're profitable. No, you're not. Mm-hmm. You're literally like, you're the opposite of it. They said in the first half of 2019, they lost $960 million. And the other guy, I can't remember who it was, but they showed that they broke down one building in particular where it's like WeWork valued their tenants in that building, which they had a high churn rate, at $107 million in this one place in New York. The real estate company that owned the building valued the building at $54 million. So if the entire building how could your short-term leases be worth double what the building is worth? Like that's preposterous, and there was just nothing to back that up. So back to your original question, like how do you raise money? Well, a lot of times you will have, there are companies that they're like brokers, okay, and you can go to them and you bring them your deck and you work with them and they have like a prearranged fee. So if you're let's say you're trying to raise $10 million, okay, they'll go out and they'll help you. They'll be like a consultant. They'll help you do your deck. They'll help you get in contact with some of these, these big, private equity people, VC people, other businesses that might be trying to, like, if you're trying to sell your business, and then they'll take if the deal goes through, like you pay them a retainer, which is, depending on the company, can be low. And then if the deal goes through, they'll take anywhere from 12 to 20%. So if you raise 10, they get $2 million, which is a nice business and a nice nut for them. And
there's also some that'll take some equity too, and some of the upside.
You can. The different companies will structure the deal differently, but that's oftentimes the process. And you go through, and then you do like the due diligence for that. I mean, we went through this in 2017 and beyond. It's like the way that they go through with every single detail about how much does it cost for this? What is your labor for that? Why is that machine running right now when it shouldn't be? That cost, they know like how much you're spending on that light bulb.
Yep.
Okay. Like they figure it out to like that level of detail.
Damn.
And that was for a manufacturing company, which things are more black and white than when you're selling hope. It's like, the hope and change. Like, oh, we're hoping change and we're going to be growth and we're going to change the future and we're going to do all these wonderful things. You're like, oh, fuck, that sounds amazing. Like, here's all this money. But it's like, if you get down to brass tacks, it's like, oh, that's all bullshit. So that's why I hate this, guys, is because raising money and trying to like grow a business and save a business and my background, it's very fucking difficult. And this guy, he had nothing and sold it he walked away with nearly $1 billion himself, because I think they bought him out for like $700 million, which is fucking insane.
Insane. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this next thing is going to be.
Yeah, I would highly recommend, if you haven't watched. It was one of my favorite ones. I mean, we haven't done one of these in a while, but it was one of my favorite ones that we've watched in a while.
Eddie was hooked.
I was hooked, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, how could you not be? This guy was fucking. He was something, dude.
Would you call him charismatic?
Oh, he definitely was.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, I also think do you think that people are worse at detecting bullshit than they were 40 years ago? Because like this, to me,
it's a good question.
And now I am kind of a cynical person, I think, like a suspicious person, that I kind of think my inclination is to be like, this guy's full of shit. But I wonder if that would have, if people like him, like, is there an example of a guy like him from 1982?
Yes. So like Bernie Madoff is a great example.
But that was more modern too.
But so the trend that I've seen is people are terrified of FOMO. And that's what Madoff preyed on. And
yeah,
he basically would tell people, I don't have any room in this fund. I'm sorry. Like, we're not taking any more people. He would turn people down, which would only make them like, now I have to get in. Like, like,
what if I give you 20 million?
We have a minimum of 5 million. Like, you can't invest anything less than 5 million. Well, everyone else is like, minimum is 1 million. Yeah. So his barrier to entry is higher. He's telling people like, yeah, there's limited space and we don't have any. If something opens up, I'll let you know. So people were like foaming at the mouth, like, please let me in. I'll pay anything. Okay, I'll get you in for 20 million. Psh, here you go.
He can pay off his original people. They don't know. They're none the wiser.
So like, I think that was like a psychological thing. Whereas this, like you said, when he's selling like just these fantastical like fucking things like hope and change and
elevating consciousness,
dude, I honestly, like, he made one good point that I was like, that's like brilliant marketing, when he was like, the 90s were all about or the 2000s were all about like iPhone, iPad, iMac, blah blah, like
we.
Yeah, this is good. The 2020s are going to be about like we, and he starts like rattling off all those words. You can see where people are like,
but that
like,
yeah.
And
I do think there was that was another Obama thing. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And it's about the collective, and it's not about you as the sovereign individual. It's about the collective. Si se puede. And like that was the message that was taking off, and that he was founding this company, I think in 2010, right in the beginning of Obama's first term, when Obama was such a cultural phenomena. And I feel like that lent itself to this WeWork and this sort of thing. And at the same time, we as millennials saw a lot of like our peer group, whether it be Zuckerberg or the Uber guy, or there were a lot of people making fucking huge money in tech and young entrepreneurs. And I think that people were so desperate to be one of those that they ended up like this guy Adam Neumann or Elizabeth Holmes, or just I think there's just a lot of people that spin bullshit because they're chasing that thing that they see on Instagram and everywhere else, and they want to be known as like a big. People are desperate to be a big shot instead of just being a good guy. Like people just give more emphasis on just being a good guy, and I think that kind of lends itself to this culture where it's like we build it around like it's a we. You can, but it's really always about him. Okay, so he can say it's built around we, but his whole thing, it's like you go up, it's all these little small enclave offices. We're doing this all together. You get up to the top floor, he's got this sprawling penthouse, glass, everything, douchebag office. So it's like, well, then what is it? And it's about us. We work. Sorry, I got to go hotbox my private jet.
He's a legend.
It's just
a legend.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right.
Boys, thanks.
I hate him. Fuck this guy.
What's the next one we're gonna do? You spit out
a couple,
four good.
Yeah.
You spit out 4 good ones. Ed.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll let the people know. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at DogWalkBarstool.
Yeah. Send us some suggestions.
Yeah, that would be good too. Preferably in this range of like 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
Ed doesn't do parters.
Well, it's just like sometimes people are like, yo, check out this 8-part one. It's like, well, it's hard to,
Dude, I watched.
It's hard to crank those
Some
out.
people or this guy, am I right?
I want you guys to watch it just for yourselves, not so we have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The Michael Pollan, How to Change Your
Oh
Mind
yeah, I
one.
watched that.
How good was that?
So he's. I thought Cooked was awesome too. I think Michael Pollan is just the fucking man.
Genius.
Yeah, he's a great writer and great documentarian.
Yeah.
So I have 1 episode left of that.
It's great.
But it just makes me, want to try psychedelics more.
So bad. I'm
Oh,
like,
some
I don't
ayahuasca?
know. I don't know, dude, that.
I would. I think I would.
That
The way people have been
psilocybin,
talking about lately is
MDMA, like
crazy.
all these things that I was terrified of before, now I'm like, I don't know which one I want to
Very
do first.
curious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I've been curious for a long. So maybe I should just say that night at Uproar, I dabbled in some mushrooms, and and it was, but I was like so scared, like I was scared. I'm in public, so I like took it and like immediately called an Uber, and just went home and laid in bed. But I liked it, but I didn't have like this.
Earth-shattering experience.
Yeah, but I don't think I took like they call it
Enough.
like a heroic dose. Like I didn't do that. I think I had like I had 1.
What was funny in the doc was how they talked about how the media and the government like criminalized not just by law, but they demonized it through the media to
yeah.
like scare teenagers into thinking like, oh, if you do this, you're gonna think you're Superman. You're gonna go up to the top of a building and jump off it. Like,
Yeah. I do think it has pushed back too far the other way too, because there are instances where, and Pollan says this too, where everybody's going to have a different reaction to every different substance. So like it might be like this breakthrough experience for you, but it might be a traumatizing thing for somebody else.
Yep.
And I've heard of people who, like I'm interested in it because I don't think it was in this documentary, but I heard it somewhere where if you take a heroic dose, and I keep using that expression because I think I heard that somewhere else too, but a lot, and then it changes your trait openness. Like that is like one of the big 5 traits, which is creativity, all this different shit. 1 standard deviation
yeah,
from where you are permanently. Okay. So I think that to me, like, that sounds fucking great for this job and me, be more creative. But if you're a person who can't necessarily do well with their brain being altered permanently, then that could send you into like, if you're predisposed to schizophrenia and you do,
That's scary.
Okay. Then you just never come back.
but dude, they said that a lot of the 70s in Silicon Valley is credited to this movement because all Steve Jobs, all those guys, even Gates, like they were all experimenting with this shit, and it opened up their minds to like.
I mean,
things.
we did an episode on this a long time ago called Stoned Ape Theory. Have you heard of
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Okay. So that, so you talk about Steve Jobs, like how about being able to hunt? Because you like before like chimpanzees and things like that, who they say like the ability to conceptualize the future in a genuine way, to be able to do geometry, and maybe it's not like the Pythagorean theorem or something, but it's like I have this rock, I have this spear, that thing's running at 15 miles an hour, I have to aim it there. Like that was, and catch it on the run, like you're Montana hitting rice on a slant pass, like that is something that we developed And there's a theory that it was because psychedelic mushrooms changed the way our brains function and changed like our ability to have language, geometry, vision. All these different things were heightened and enhanced by coming out of the trees and stumbling onto a wet savanna where these psychedelic mushrooms were growing. So supposedly, it's a theory, but it's interesting.
It makes more sense than some of the others.
I think it makes more sense than basically the entire pharmaceutical industry, which is probably why it's been pushed underground for 100 years.
Amen.
And now that it's becoming another way for it to be profitable, people are exploring it again.
Yeah, what Neil Brennan had a good thing on Rogan a couple months ago.
He's so good.
About
Yeah, I
ayahuasca.
like him a lot.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He essentially struggles with depression.
Yep.
And he's like very, just like he's just can never feel happy, I guess. I believe. Go watch the episode. He'll explain it more in his own words. But he said like doing this has like made him like
And they
feel a lot better.
There's in the pollen thing too. They talked about how they give, MDMA to vets who are suffering from
PTSD.
like,
Seeing these people who are like literally every day suicidal.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to live. And then seeing them almost immediately come out of it. They said the success rate's in the 70s.
yeah. And then
Which is like, why isn't this being
same thing with
adopted mass-wise?
DMT and like addiction. So if you're like addicted to cigarettes and you do DMT and you're smoking a pack a day for 30 years, you have one intense DMT experience and you wake up and you're like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. And they give it to people who are terminally ill with cancer, who have all this anxiety about dying, and you give them an experience. And it's like, well, I'm not really afraid of that anymore. So it's I don't know what should be done, except for the fact that we should do more studying on it, because it hasn't even been allowed to be researched.
I want to do it.
Forever.
I want to be a
test monkey.
I want to be a test monkey. So if anyone's listening out there that can set me up,
what do you want to do specifically?
That's what I don't know.
You want to do it all. You want to do DMT intravenously?
That's scary, dude. He's gonna show up with
I
fucking.
don't want to do it all because I think that's too extreme. But the benefits. So the good thing about the doc is he separated it into 4 parts, and each part is a different substance. Mm-hmm. And each one, you're like, you watch the first one on mushrooms, and you're like, man, this sounds like the best thing ever. Then you watch the next one on MDMA, which I'm embarrassed because I've been in that scene like pretty much my whole life as a DJ, and I've never done ecstasy because I have my heart problem, and I've always been like afraid, like, oh, drugs are gonna fucking kill me. And it was always just so synonymous with raves and all that shit. But seeing people do it laying down in bed and like old senior citizens doing it, and
yes, dude, that's more the
benefits. I'm like, God damn it, what the fuck? Why haven't I tried this before?
Well, and that's the kind of thing too, where it's like I remember that was like a big thing. Maybe like when I was at the end of high school, it was like the rave scene, and people would walk around with those fucking necklaces and the pacifiers and be like, oh, like I'm fucking doing Molly and MDMA, like, and I'm like, well, I think you're a fucking loser, so I don't want anything to do with that. But now it's like what you're talking about. You're like, oh, you can just chill in your bed and feel better. Pff, I'm in for that. Like, I don't want to party. I just want to like feel better.
Sorry, we got off on a.
It was.
I like how we do that.
Yeah,
yeah,
it happens. Maybe
how much
get more into
MDMA do
it.
you think that this fucking Adam Neumann did? I bet you it was a lot.
A lot. All right, boys. It was fun. Thanks, everybody, for listening. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We will see you then.